The Thompson family's weekly dinner filled their luxurious dining room with the usual tension. Crystal glasses clinked against fine china as my father, CEO of First Capital Bank, held court at the head of the table. I sat quietly in my simple outfit, watching him celebrate another record quarter. I checked my phone discreetly. Message from my CFO. Acquisition complete. Paperwork filed. Announcement in 30 minutes. So, Elizabeth, Dad's voice carried that familiar condescension. Still living paycheck to paycheck at that finance startup. I slipped my phone away. I'm doing fine, Dad. My brother Michael smirked from his vice president's chair. Fine? Is that why you're still driving that old car? If only they knew about the fleet of luxury vehicles in my private garage. Not everyone can afford a new Mercedes every year, Mom added, adjusting her diamond bracelet. Though if you'd stayed at the bank like your brother. I chose my own path, I said quietly. Path? Dad scoffed. Working at some tiny investment firm isn't a path. It's a dead end. I checked my watch. 20 minutes until the announcement. Remember when she turned down the junior executive position? Michael laughed. Said she wanted to innovate finance instead. Innovation requires capital, Dad declared. Something you clearly lack. 15 minutes. Speaking of capital, Michael straightened his designer tie. Dad, should we tell everyone the news? Dad beamed. Yes. First Capital is acquiring Regional Trust next month. Michael led the negotiations himself. I checked my phone again. 10 minutes. That's how real banking works, Dad continued. Not whatever small-time trades you're doing. My work is different, I said. Different. He laughed. Living paycheck to paycheck is certainly different from real success. 5 minutes. Elizabeth could still come back to the bank, Mom offered. Maybe in a junior position. I'm happy where I am, I said. Happy. Dad's voice rose. Happiness doesn't pay for success, young lady. Just look at your brother's achievements while you waste time at that little firm. My phone buzzed. Message from my legal team, transfer complete. You now own controlling interest. Actually, Dad, I smiled, checking my phone. About First Capital Bank. What about my bank? His voice sharpened. It's not your bank anymore. I turned my phone to show him the notification. Mr. Anderson, your daughter now owns 51% of your bank. The crystal glasses stopped clinking. Michael's fork clattered against fine china. That's impossible, Dad whispered. Actually, it's been in progress for months. That tiny investment firm you mocked? We've been quietly buying shares through various holdings. But that would take billions. Michael stammered. Yes, I agreed. It did. Mom's diamond bracelet suddenly looked very cheap. All this time, when you said you were working in investment. I was building something bigger than a vice presidency, I finished. While you were celebrating Michael's small acquisitions, I was acquiring his entire bank. Dad's face had gone pale. The regional trust deal is cancelled, I confirmed. We have better plans for First Capital's future. My phone buzzed again. Message from my team, press release ready. Time to show them everything. I looked at their shocked faces and typed back, yes. Let's show them what paycheck to paycheck really means. The Thompson family dining room had transformed from a scene of smug superiority to stunned silence. The expensive china and crystal sat forgotten as my father, the now former CEO of First Capital Bank, tried to process how his empire had slipped through his fingers. Let me explain what happens now, I said calmly, taking control of the conversation like I'd taken control of his bank. First Capital's board meets tomorrow morning. There will be some significant changes. Changes? Michael's voice cracked. What kind of changes? Well, for starters, I pulled up documents on my tablet. Your regional trust acquisition? Not just cancelled, it was never viable. Our analytics showed it would have lost the bank millions. Dad found his voice. That's not possible. Our analysts are using outdated methods, I finished. My firm, that tiny investment firm you mocked, has revolutionized banking analytics. While you were celebrating Michael's deal-making, we were revolutionizing how banking works. Mom's hands trembled around her wine glass. But your apartment, your car, were carefully chosen, I smiled. Did you really think someone buying controlling interest in a major bank lived in a small apartment by choice? It was cover, Mom. Like everything else you judged. The board won't stand for this, Dad declared, but his voice lacked conviction. The board? I raised an eyebrow. You mean the board that's meeting right now via video conference, approving my appointment as CEO? I turned my tablet to show them the live feed. Board members nodding, voting, accepting the inevitable. Michael stood abruptly. My position is under review, I cut in. Along with every other executive appointment you've made, Dad. Merit over nepotism, what a concept. My phone buzzed. Message from my COO. Stock trading halted for tomorrow. Analysts predicting 40% jump on leadership change. This is absurd, Dad tried again. You can't just walk in and watch me, I interrupted. Or better yet, check your bank account. He grabbed his phone, fingers trembling as he logged in. His face went ashen. Frozen, I confirmed. All executive accounts are suspended pending review. Standard procedure during leadership transitions. You taught me that, remember? Mom reached for her own phone. My accounts too. All of them. Don't worry, we've allocated a reasonable living stipend. You'll have to cut back on the jewelry, though. The dining room's hidden speakers suddenly came alive with breaking news. Financial sector shocked as First Capital Bank sees surprise takeover. Elizabeth Thompson emerges as banking's new power player. How long? Michael whispered. How long have you been planning this? Since the day you both laughed at my innovation ideas, I said. Remember that dinner? When Dad said I'd never understand real banking. They had the grace to look ashamed. While you were focused on old-school acquisitions, I continued, I was building an AI-driven banking system that makes your methods obsolete. First Capital isn't just getting a new CEO, it's getting a complete transformation. Dad's hands clenched. You can't destroy everything I built. Destroy. I laughed. Dad, I'm saving your bank from becoming obsolete. Though I understand why change frightens you. My phone lit up with another message. Global partners calling. They want to discuss the new direction. You know what's ironic? I stood, walking to the window. If either of you had ever actually asked about my work, you could have been part of this. Instead we mocked you, Mom finished quietly. Yes, I turned back. The daughter living paycheck to paycheck just bought your entire world. Michael slumped in his chair. What happens to us? That depends, I said. Can the great Richard Thompson learn to work under his daughter? Can the brilliant Michael adapt to actually earning his position? They exchanged desperate looks as their banking dynasty crumbled around them. The screens on my phone filled with more headlines. Banking heir loses empire to daughter. Innovation meets tradition. First Capital's new era. Thompson family power shift rocks financial world. Tomorrow's board meeting is at 9 a.m. I gathered my things. Dad, you'll present your resignation. Michael, you'll brief me on all current projects, the real status, not the polished version you give Dad. And if we refuse? Dad challenged weakly. Then you'll be escorted out by security, and your severance package will reflect your uncooperative attitude. Mom stepped forward. Please, we can work this out as a family. Family? I raised an eyebrow. Like when you worked out my career path. My future. My worth. The silence was deafening. As I headed for the door, Michael called out. Wait. What about dinner? I turned back one last time. I have a dinner meeting with First Capital's new executive team. We're discussing the future of banking. I smiled. I can afford much better restaurants now. The next morning's headlines were devastating. Banking's new queen, broke daughter seizes family empire. Every financial channel buzzed with the story of how the Thompson family's struggling daughter had orchestrated the takeover of the year while they mocked her finances. I sat in what was once my father's office, now transformed with cutting-edge technology that would have given him a heart attack. The traditional mahogany and leather replaced by smart screens showing real-time banking analytics across global markets. Ms. Thompson, my assistant called. Your family's here. All of them. I watched them on the security feed, standing awkwardly in the lobby they once ruled. Dad's usual confident stride gone, Michael's smirk replaced by fear, Mom's designer confidence shattered. Send them up. They entered like strangers in their own bank. The office they'd visited thousands of times, now foreign territory. Please, sit. I gestured to the visitor chairs, the same ones Dad had used to intimidate countless employees. I assume you've reviewed the transition documents. They're comprehensive, Dad managed, his CEO voice failing him. Of course they are, I smiled. Unlike the regional trust deal paperwork, which was remarkably incomplete. Michael, want to explain the gaps in due diligence? My brother paled. I followed standard procedures. Standard. I pulled up AI analysis on the wall screens. Our systems found 17 major risks you missed. The deal would have cost us $440 million in the first year alone. That's not possible, Dad protested weakly. Not possible with your methods, I corrected. But then, that's why I'm sitting here now, isn't it? Mom found her voice. Darling, about your accounts. Still frozen, I confirmed. The audit team found some interesting transfers. Care to explain the offshore holdings, Dad? He slumped in his chair. Those were legitimate business. Save it for the auditors, I cut in. Though I'd suggest full cooperation. It would be shame to add criminal charges to your resignation. My phone buzzed. Message from my CFO. Stock up 45% on opening. Your net worth just hit $8.2 billion. You know what's fascinating? I continued, standing to look out over the city. While you were all laughing at my tiny investment firm, we were processing more daily transactions than First Capital's entire network. But your apartment, Mom stammered, was next door to our AI development center. I turned back. That old car? Kept the attention off the private garage full of supercars. Everything you mocked was carefully chosen to keep you exactly where I wanted you, overconfident and unobservant. Michael shifted uncomfortably. What happens to our positions? Yours is simple, you're demoted to junior analyst. Learn how real banking works, if you can. Junior analyst, he choked. But I'm vice president. We're vice president, I corrected. Now you'll own your position, not inherit it. Dad stood suddenly. You can't just erase 30 years of banking experience. No. I raised an eyebrow. Like you tried to erase my innovation ideas? How many times did you say I'd never understand real banking? The screens filled with more breaking news. First Capital stock soars on leadership change. AI banking revolution begins. Thompson family dynasty ends as daughter takes control. As for you, Dad, I continued, you have two options. Retire quietly with a reasonable package, or stay as a senior advisor. Under my direct supervision, of course. His face reddened. Under your supervision, yes. Surprisingly, living paycheck to paycheck taught me a lot about actual banking. More than your country club deals ever did. Mom stepped forward. Please, we can fix this. Fix what? I challenged. The bank's broken culture? The outdated systems? Or just your wounded pride? My phone lit up with another message. Global banking partners ready for new AI integration. Time to launch phase 2. Here's what happens now. I faced them fully. This bank is entering the future, with or without you. Your choice is simple, adapt or leave. They exchanged glances, their banking empire transformed by the daughter they'd dismissed. I'll take the junior position, Michael said quietly. I want to learn the new systems. Mom nodded. We'll cooperate with the auditors. Whatever you need. All eyes turned to Dad. The great Richard Thompson, now facing his greatest challenge, working for his broke daughter. And you, Dad? I prompted. Ready to learn how modern banking really works. He looked around his former office, at the technology he'd resisted, at the daughter he'd underestimated. I was wrong, he finally said. About everything. Yes, you were, I agreed. The question is, can you admit that publicly? Because that's your first task as senior advisor, explaining to our shareholders why your daughter had to save the bank from your outdated methods. He nodded slowly, 30 years of banking arrogance finally cracking. The press conference starts in an hour. I checked my phone. Time to show the world what real banking looks like in the digital age. As they turned to leave, Dad paused. Elizabeth, that first day you tried to explain your AI banking idea. Save it, I cut him off. Actions matter more than words. Show me you can learn from the daughter you mocked. After they left, I turned back to the screens showing First Capital's global transformation. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just taking control, it's revolutionizing everything they thought they knew about power. And in banking, true power isn't in the corner office, it's in seeing the future while others count their past glory.